Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Thursday, May the 1st already. Wow. This is episode number 294. And I guess we're getting used to this video thing. We don't have to count it down how many of these we've done anymore. So we'll just quit doing that and enjoy this process. And we're a few days removed from the draft here, and we got some cool things to talk about, and let's see. I think I'll bring my brother Jeff in. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Rob.
How's it going?
I'm settling down a little bit.
Yeah, the draft was a little bit. Everybody saw the reaction show, and everybody had their spin on it, and some picks went over better than others, and everybody's kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And
some picks got very little attention at all, and some picks are just like you can't get away from them,
right?
No matter where you look.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and some other things in the news and all that. But let's we say we bring our guest in.
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to bring in John Cahill. You can follow John at John Cahill _IRL, all the way from Ireland. It's great to not only talk to you again, John, but to see your bright shining face and talk some Browns tonight.
That's just the lights, Jeff, or Rod. Nice to see you boys again. How he's getting on?
Doing great. So
thanks for joining.
That's my pleasure.
What time is it over there, John?
It is 11 p.m.
All right,
it's not too bad
up for us.
It's not too bad. It's a school night, but we'll
Right.
we'll keep it to 3 hours, so we should be fine.
Yeah, 3 hours will be good.
Yeah.
We'll pare it down a little bit tonight, guys. So before we get into the show, let's just get at it, guys. Let's talk about what we might be drinking. And John, I know it's 11 o'clock there, so are you drinking anything?
I know the tradition, Rod, but it's a school night with an early start. So I'm drinking a cup of tea out of my sheep mug.
Okay.
That's where I am at the minute. Lion's tea, black Lion's tea. If you're in Ireland, there's a sort of there's a very divisive tea debate. It's either Lions or Barry's. That's it. When you grow up in your household, you either have Lion's tea or Barry's tea. People in the south of the country, down in Cork direction, they tend towards Barry's because it's from that area. But a lot of other people drink Lion's tea. This is a Lion's house, and I refuse to drink any other tea. So the most middle-aged man thing I've been doing recently in the last few years, when I go on holidays, went to Rome last year. I brought a bag of Lion's tea bags with me. Wow. Just so I could have Lion's tea. Now, nice. There you go.
That sounds good.
That's excellent.
Sounds good.
All right. So Jeff, what are you drinking tonight?
I went back to the you're not going to really see it here, but
Black Label. Is that a Black Label?
Yeah. There it is. Okay.
There you go.
I went back to the Brew Dog variety pack tonight for an Easy Street, because the Browns are now on Easy Street when it comes to having a franchise quarterback. You've got 4 options, so I thought that just on name alone was appropriate. This is a golden. Of course, it's an NA, John. I think you probably know that. I'm not doing the hard stuff anymore, so that helps on a school night too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. So I just opened the first beer. This was a birthday gift. This is I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a New Holland Peach Space Machine Hazy IPA. Just had a little bit of a sip of it, and
Roger, you're the biggest hipster when it comes to the beer selections.
Yes, that's right.
I like it. And somebody, I think, let's see, actually, I'm trying to remember. I think my daughter got that for me. So yeah, my daughter and son,
Nice.
Declan and Josh, got that for me. Just hoping.
Nice.
I kind of have a uh, reputation for liking peaches, not just in beer, but peaches in general. So when people see a peach beer, they usually, they kind of think of me, and I end up getting a lot of 6 packs of peach beer, and some of them are better than others. This one's got pretty good flavor.
You're getting a lot of citrus hazy IPAs then, I take it.
Yeah, well, it's getting into that time of year too.
Right. It's nice out.
In the summer. Yeah, definitely. So,
Hey, Rod, before we move on from this segment, I just want to raise a toast. This week we learned of the passing of local neighborhood legend Brian Henderson, who has come up on this podcast in the past. I think it's appropriate because you never forget the guy you had your first beer with, even if it was when you were 13 years old. So cheers to Brian.
Cheers to Brian and Jeff. I want to add to that because I just found out that John Sparks, who's been on the podcast several times over the years, he just passed away just a couple days ago.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I found out he had a short fight with cancer, and John's a guy that I was fortunate enough to sit down and drink a couple beers with too. So definitely the right time to raise a toast and maybe dedicate this show to these two guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, so I guess John, before we just kind of dig into news and go all different directions, Jeff and I got to give our thoughts on the draft in general and specifics, I guess, because we did a whole podcast about it. Is there any, what kind of thoughts did you have, and what stood out as, good and bad, and what do you think of it?
Overall, very good draft. Very happy with the draft. Two things, I suppose, really stood out to me. The first thing, the one thing that sort of was unexpected for me, and I still have not an issue with it, but I still kind of would bring it up as an area where I would maybe go different. It was Swesinger at 33. And basically the issue being there, you open up our depth chart there at the minute and have a look down in the safety room. And after Grant Delpit and Ronnie Hickman, we ain't got anything. We have Trey Dean the third, Christopher Edmonds, and Donovan McMillan. We don't want any of those guys starting in a Browns jersey this year. And Nick Emanawari was there at 33. And that's I'm still having trouble getting up because we like Judkins at 36. Oh, brilliant. Couldn't have asked for better pick there, and I was convinced we would have taken some selection of Luther Burden, Nicholas Manawari, or Judkins in those picks. That's what I was kind of because again, we've signed Deontay Johnson, I know, this week, but the wide receiver room could have done maybe with Luther Burden there. It could have been a good fit. But that was the first thing that popped out. As for the trade and all that, it was too good a value to turn the trade down. And I think the narrative there, people that are upset about not getting Travis Hunter, they're comparing sort of apples and cars. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not Travis Hunter or Mason Graham. It's Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Judkins, and a first. You know what I mean? Like it's the whole package you have to stand back and look at. It was incredible value. And I think at that point of the draft, they're still thinking quarterback next year, right? So we get to the second part of the draft where I was scratching my head. Dylan Gabriel picked at the point he was picked, and Shedeur Sanders picked at the point he was picked. So I've seen a lot of things online in the last week, and it does make sense. If we had taken Sanders in the third round and then taken Gabriel, I don't think anyone would have batted an eyelid.
Right.
Where
That's right.
I see the issue and what's popped up for me, and I don't know if anyone else has seen this, but if you see in the clips where the front office are speaking to the players when they've been drafted, go back and have a look at and listen to the tone of the conversation between Kevin Stefanski and Dylan Gabriel, and the tone of the conversation between Andrew Berry and Shedeur Sanders. Like, to me, there's a night and day approach there, and at the moment, Dylan Gabriel is streets ahead of Shedeur Sanders on the depth chart, basically going off that conversations that were had there. And it's become apparently really clear the last few days that Dylan Gabriel is Stefanski's guy, like that he fancied in that position, and that Shedeur Sanders was taken because incredible value left on the board at that point in the draft. You know, it did make sense. Now we also had opportunities to take other players, especially at Dylan Gabriel's pick. Watts was still knocking around there. There was a couple of tackle options still knocking around there. So they're the 2 points that are sticking with me. Now, if you again do the revisionist history and sit down with that list of players a week before the draft and add on a first round next year,
right?
You would say, no way, it's not possible. We're not getting that haul of players. So I think people need to be sort of realistic and sort of look at it from a macro point of view, and stand back and have a look at the draft as a whole. I'm personally very happy with it. And again, I've gone back and I've looked at Schrodinger a little bit. I'm a bit more, I suppose, because I wasn't as tuned into him at picking a linebacker so early. Because as
none of us were.
We don't do that, like, you know what I mean?
Right. I didn't think we were going to take a linebacker.
I hadn't even looked, to be quite honest. I knew the name and I knew who the player was, but I knew nothing a lot about him. Having looked that up, you know, I wouldn't send him back. And we also have maybe issues with JOK regarding injuries going forward. But you know, our linebacker room, Karamoa, Jordan Hicks, Mahmoud Diabate, Devin Bush, you know, Jerome Baker. We have players there, you know. So that's why, again, it was a surprise, really, I suppose, that we plumbed for the linebacker at that spot.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't expect a linebacker in the second round. No, I don't think anybody did. I guess when you think about needs from a role perspective, you know, we've got a lot of linebackers in that room, but who do we really feel good about 2 or 3 years down the road? Right now, there's really nobody beyond. I mean, if JOK comes back, right? So because of that giant question mark, I guess, over JOK, it sort of made sense to me that they were looking for a more long-term player at linebacker in hindsight, but I never saw it coming. I didn't at all expect him to take a linebacker in the first 3 rounds.
Not with the other holes on the team, but it just to me, it kind of just made it more like they were just trying to grab players that they thought were the best players that they could get almost regardless of position in some spots, and trying to add talent and maybe certain types of players to this team too. And knowing that this was going to be more than a 1 year project. That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah. And they took players that would give them a jump start on that this year based on the strengths of the draft. You know, there were tons of D tackles, there were tons of running backs, not so many linebackers. So if you needed a linebacker, you kind of had to jump in pretty early, right? The quarterback question is interesting because there were a bunch of quarterbacks taken, but they're all pretty much, with the exception of Cam Ward, all pretty much viewed as backup guys, right? And that's what we've been saying for months, is that there are going to be a ton of backups in this draft.
Other than the teams that drafted them, yes.
Well, they might view them that way, but I would make the case that even the Browns taking Dylan Gabriel I don't think they view him as a franchise quarterback. I think they viewed him as that was Stefanski's favorite quarterback to be a long-term backup. You needed to fill that role anyway. When's the last time we had a really reliable long-term backup quarterback that, we knew that was his ceiling, but he had a pretty high floor as well. I think that's an important role on a football team, and that from this draft you could realistically expect to get a guy like that, right?
Case Keenum.
Right. Yeah. We had him for a couple of years. Yeah. And I see a lot of Case Keenum in Dylan Gabriel, guy who's going to take care of the football and pretty accurate and can execute an offense, right? Not going to set the world on fire, but you got that sort of steady presence, right? And I think when the Shador thing happened a couple rounds later, it was kind of like, okay, well, we've got that backup guy. Now we're just going to take a wild swing at the possibility of a starting quarterback. It's not a great swing, but there weren't any in this draft. So why not take a shot? And
do you think Milroe
he works out, right?
Do you think Milroe was the swing? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that they got sniped?
For me, it was. They missed him by a couple picks.
Yeah. I think that was the swing, and it was kind of it was an obvious pick, I think, for the Seahawks at that point, to get there. Maybe it's hard to think that if they really wanted him, they wouldn't have taken him
up a little
not
bit
even
or
trade.
something.
Yeah, not even traded up, even taking him, in the second round. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. With Milroe, it would have been a long-term commitment, right? To making him the starter. It would have taken a while to get him there. Whereas, Sanders, and you could argue that a few other guys, Shuck and Will Howard, have a pretty good chance of you're going to know what you've got with them pretty quick, right?
Will Howard would have taken a hit, isn't he?
I'm afraid that one scares the crap out of me, John.
Yeah, that's not a nice feeling, is it?
No. I'm afraid that we're going to regret that one. He's going to make us pay for that one. But
it could be. Could be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with them taking multiple swings at trying to find a starter, especially when they've already kind of said that next year they're going to do it again. And if it pans out with Shador, hey, we're that much further ahead. If it doesn't, we lost a fifth rounder. Big deal. They can probably recoup that by trading him.
Drew Adder would be nice next year.
I think that
I can think of a few options. Yeah.
Yeah, there's several. I would think that they believe that Gabriel has a chance to be a starter, or they would not.
I think you're right, Rod.
Third.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the chances of him turning into Drew Brees are not great, but that's what
we'd probably take Case Keenum.
That's what we hope for. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know I think if the Browns view Dylan Gabriel as the guy they want to hitch their wagon to long-term as the franchise quarterback, they're probably the only team in the league that thinks that. I don't know why they would.
No, I think with regards to what Rod was saying, it's a risk versus reward thing at where you're taking them, and the same very much for Sanders. The risk you're taking of taking that young man into the building is the bullshit that comes on top with the player.
With Sanders,
and that's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate for him to suffer from the sins of his father. But it would be great if he came into the building, was a competent quarterback. He's very accurate. He's very accurate. If he was able to manage the game and manage the ball and be some sort of, what would you call who's he being compared to? Who's the comparisons being?
Sanders?
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk Cousins, because he was
Cousins
the second
probably
pick
a good one
of the Washington, at the Redskins at the time, who no one really expected to be a starter, right?
Yeah.
So he's sort of that I don't know, pocket passer who is going to be accurate, like you said, that isn't going to hopefully get himself in a lot of trouble. I think the pre-draft stuff with him was a lot of it was self-inflicted. And some of it, I think, is just a product of the times that we're in. Think about the fact that he got $4+ million to go to Colorado in the transfer portal, right, in NIL. So his first contract with the Browns is a little over $4 million for 4 years. Okay, I mean, he probably lost about 35 to 40 million bucks in his first contract by dropping from the first round to the fifth. Okay, he could have actually made more money if he could have stayed in college another year and transferred somewhere.
Quinn Ewers just burnt $5 million.
He did.
Going to sit on the bench in Miami.
Right. Yeah. So that's I think that's part of the environment that we're in now, right? Is that these guys are making a whole bunch of money in college now, right? And they've got this sense of entitlement coming into the NFL. And best case scenario is Shedeur got humbled and will come in ready to work. And he'll want to prove that he deserves more money. 31 teams made a huge mistake. And if that happens and he plays to his potential, then if either we will like him as a starter or somebody else will.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because it sounds like the Browns, obviously they have a shot. They're probably going to have a shot at going after one of these guys who seems to fit the mold better as a franchise quarterback in the 26th draft. Okay, with the capital they're going to have next year.
Right.
That means really that the Browns have a year, one season to analyze Gabriel and Sanders, because I don't think you're going to go into the 26th season with a rookie, Gabriel and Sanders as your three guys. And carry three guys again on your active roster. I think one of those guys is probably going to be gone from the team after a year.
I think it's time for the first hot take of the night. Rod.
Here we go.
Brace yourself now. Is this a time to have a conversation about potentially putting Joe Flacco out for availability? Like, I think this year, if we're going to do this, what is the point in starting Joe Flacco this year and having Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders on the bench? And we don't know anything this time next year again.
Well, I think it's important that Gabriel and Sanders both play some games this year. Definitely.
I agree. Here's the way I see the Flacco thing, John. We talked a few weeks ago about, I was saying there's no need to panic. There's no need to bring in a veteran. You can always bring in a veteran later in the season. Kirk Cousins he'll be there for trade if you need him, right? So I was really shocked that they pulled the trigger on Flacco as early as they did. I think the reason they did it was to sell tickets. I think
that's very possible.
The
People
fan
like
base,
Flacco.
Yeah, the fan base loves the guy. They remember what happened in the 5 games in the regular season. They completely forget what happened in the playoffs, and they expect us to be able to get that kind of performance out of a 40-year-old quarterback, and that's going to sell tickets. Playing 3 guys who have really nothing to get excited about at this point wasn't going to sell tickets.
I don't know if any of the other 3 guys are going to, sell tickets.
No, really, when you talk about selling tickets, like the point of the game here really for this year is we need to see what we have in that room. Okay. Now,
I agree.
There's either 2 things happen. We struggle and we win 6 games, 5-6 games, and hopefully the Jags do the same, and we have 2 top 13 or 14 picks. Okay. Or one of those quarterbacks can play.
Yeah.
And we have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. Not that I'm good with a losing season, and I'm not good with that. But it's a road we're going to have to travel. Winning 8-9 games and not making the playoffs with Joe Flacco, and maybe seeing Dylan Gabriel for 2 games and Shedeur Sanders for 1 game, it's probably not going to achieve anything for us.
Tells you nothing. Yeah,
No,
and then you've got to pick around,
20,
15, 20 or whatever, and it doesn't help you.
Joe Flacco he has no future. There's absolutely zero future with Joe Flacco. And those are two really good scenarios. The only other scenario is even worse to think about, but you still end up with a high pick that you can take your franchise quarterback with, right? If you go over or win 1 or 2 games and you're the worst team in the league with 3 rookie or young quarterbacks, right? I'm counting Kenny Pickett in there. I see no point in playing Joe Flacco. I think it's only an option if they start to worry about the record and fans losing interest.
I also don't think you have to rush things either. So there's no need to do anything now. Go through camp, go through your preseason games, and then when you have to start cutting rosters down, see, if these 4 guys all stay healthy.
Well, that's another option, a possibility, right? Is once somebody gets hurt, that solves the problem.
Yeah, I would be pretty sure that something could happen there.
Natural selection.
Yeah, definitely.
Let Darwin figure it out.
And if not, that does make sense. But if one of the guys gets hurt, I really don't have a problem on the surface with Flacco starting the first couple of games. But you guys are right. If he starts, 8 or 10 games, it's like, what are we doing here? Because this is a time, and Kenny Pickett, they didn't pick up his options, so I don't know how much we need to see of him. It's really the 2 rookies. So I think you play Pickett or Flacco a little bit until you think these guys are ready to go out there and play a game, and then you throw them out there. Right.
Yep.
I don't see what difference.
Pickett, I think, is another one of those wild card things that if he outplays his ceiling or where everybody thinks his ceiling is, again, you can turn him into another asset, and maybe the ceiling of that is he does what Sam Darnold did for Minnesota last year, and now you benefit from him turning it around. There's absolutely nothing to lose with him either, and he can be a steadying veteran, quasi-veteran for those 2 rookies. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where all 4 of these guys sit at the end of training camp and how that decision gets made, because the 3 guys all have their unique personalities and unique skill sets. Gabriel is, for me, the best long-term fit with Kevin Stefanski. The rest of those guys are all wild cards. It's really hard to tell which, or if any, of those 3 could be here in a year or 2. I think Gabriel's going to have some staying power. Again, I believe he'll be a long-term backup, but I don't think there's really much future with the other 3. But we'll see.
Yeah, and let's face it, guys, this isn't so much a competition to see who's going to be the starter in 25.
Right.
We're competition to see who's 26 and after.
All right. Exactly.
And do the Browns go after, try to get into a spot to draft one of the top, 2 quarterbacks in 26, who at that point is going to be your long-term starter unless something weird happens.
Hopefully. Right.
Yeah. You would hope. Yeah.
Yep.
So the Deontay Johnson signing, and I didn't look at the money on this, or I don't know what it is. It really doesn't matter.
I haven't heard it.
I don't know if it's even out or not.
The
guy who's had some good seasons. I think he's been over 1,000 yards a couple times and close to it a couple other times. And he also burned through 3 or 4 teams last season.
He kind of did an Odell Beckham last year.
Yeah.
What did he do? Did he walk out or something on?
He refused to play in one game for some strange reason. It just was a clubhouse cancer.
Yeah. So welcome to the Browns, Deontay Johnson. So,
right, right.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
love those kind of guys.
I think he's a guy that hopefully, if he acts up at all, they just show him the door,
Yeah.
But he's also a guy that's probably, maybe getting what could be his last shot, because I think he's 30 or pretty close to it.
Yeah.
I think he's actually only 25 or 6. I think he's a lot younger. Okay. Yeah, no, I think he's a lot younger than you think, because he was very young coming out. The one concerning thing about all this, we're in a position now where we've drafted Cedric Tillman, Jamari Trash, Michael Woods, David Bell, and we're out here scrambling for scraps in free agency, to fill holes.
Yeah.
Now I know later round picks, and Tillman wasn't that late, and David Bell wasn't terribly late. 3 of them were
third rounders.
Yeah, but no, that's correct actually. Yeah, I know that they're not
and
late picks.
Woods was 6th or 7th, wasn't he?
Yeah. Woods was later, but like
just for
like their depth wide receivers. Let's be real about it. Like, we haven't seen the best of David Bell yet. I don't think. I think there's a bit more there to come from David Bell. Michael Woods has had a bad injury, and his development's been sort of stymied as well. Tillman also been injured, but look, everyone has injuries. But those players, we haven't really developed, and only for Jerry Jeudy last year. Jerry Jeudy really pulled that room out of the fire last year.
He said, "I'll take all the targets."
Yeah. I'm hoping.
We haven't invested in the wide receiver room in the draft or otherwise. It's been.
I'm wondering.
That's it.
I'm wondering, are they thinking that Harold Fannin is going to play that much? That maybe he was kind of the offensive weapon investment instead of taking your wide receiver a bit earlier.
Yeah, you kind of wonder, because those other guys, and I know there have been injuries,
pick, right? I mean,
yeah, but he's also pretty highly regarded as a receiver, so you wonder. But
sure, yeah, but I mean, we're not using first rounders on wide receivers. Is the point, right? Just for accuracy, Deontay Johnson will be on July 5th. He'll be 29, so it's his 8th.
29. Sorry, Rod.
In between.
Yeah,
well, you said 26.
Yeah, so,
I said 30, and he's 28. So, okay.
Split the difference, guys. So we're kind of scrounging for guys right now, but I think again that's got to be part of that 2-year plan. When you
we've
got to find a quarterback.
Yeah, and when you did. I get this thing with the Browns every year after the draft. I always go back and I look at the rooms, and it feels like every year it's like we're playing whack-a-mole, as in which room is going to put its head up this year to be terrible. And like this year, it's the safety room. Yeah. It's a dumpster fire in there. Like, we don't have players,
There's not enough sticks to start a fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and tackle, I'm concerned at tackle, to be honest with you, because DeJuan Jones can't stay fit for a season. Are we going to play Tevin Jenkins at tackle? Are we going to play Cornelius Lucas at tackle?
I would think Lucas.
I think Cornelius Lucas is going to play a lot.
I think he's going to start at left tackle. Is he?
He could.
Might.
Yeah.
And like Jenkins, I like the Jenkins signing. I'm thinking they got him for versatility.
He's a guy who's been hurt a lot though too.
He hasn't developed. He hasn't developed, I think. But like the problem is that we don't have that bona fide starting. There's our left tackle. That's our Joe Thomas, whatever. Left tackle there. And to be quite honest, we haven't really had that for a few years, because Jed Wills wasn't really ever it, and that's unfortunate. But there's, like I said, there's a few rooms there, like in the wide receiver room is another room that if you were to make a trade, if you were to find some cap space behind the sofa, in August or whenever, I'd be looking I'd be looking at wide receiver and safety rooms. The running back room this year was a problem. Now it's not. The DT room was a huge problem a couple of years ago. Now it's not. Linebacker room was a problem. Now it's not. But now we have these other rooms popping their heads up, and it seems to be like this cycle that we get into where we don't value a position. Now we're drafting them in second rounds. Like we drafting linebackers and running backs in the second round, which again was unheard of. But maybe this is what we need to be doing to get the roster back to where it needs to be. We also have. Do we still have the most expensive roster in the NFL?
As far as cash spend goes, we're probably still there because of the Watson money.
Watson contracts,
yeah,
probably.
That's hampering
even with all the rookies
them a little bit. Yeah, so I would expect the Browns to be at top 5 in cash spend for the foreseeable future. It's just a question of what can it actually get you, right?
Yeah.
Because we're
numbers should start going down with the rookies and stuff after a while.
I mean, as far as filling out the wide receiver room, John, I think Andrew Berry has demonstrated that he can go out and find value in the trade market. So I would expect another move sometime between now and the start of the season to bring in a veteran on some kind of a value trade deal.
So we're going to have to start scanning around for veterans that can start that are on terrible contracts.
For this season's Jerry Jeudy or Amari Cooper.
Why don't we trade with the Packers? They have like 8 starting receivers on that roster.
I'd be fine with that.
I'll take Dobbs. I'll take Romeo Dobbs.
Anytime.
There's 3 guys on that team that I would have been thrilled if we'd have drafted. So yeah, absolutely. I think you'll find somebody like that to.
Yeah, I was going to say they drafted like 5 wide receivers or something this year, didn't they?
Yeah, they've got the plethora. So yeah, we could. Yeah, I think we'll find a guy to round out that room. It's interesting to me though that Deontay Johnson. We've talked about this before, that they sort of fall in love with a body type, a player type, right? That and they throw multiples at that position. So Elijah Moore signs with the Bills for $5 million. Basically, the day or two later, or after they signed Deontay Johnson. And then today they added Jabari Barber as a UDFA. Let me give you the stats on these guys. So Deontay Johnson is 5'10", 183, ran a 4.53 40. Jabari Barber is 5'9", 179, ran a 4.54 40. I mean, these guys are almost carbon copies of each other.
We're never getting a Calvin Johnson, are we?
No. And so Calvin Johnson's way too tall to play for us.
Yeah, and the other wide receiver on the that they signed to the practice squad or as a UDFA, I should say, George Larverdane, 5'9", 180.
Right.
Out of South Carolina.
We're looking for kick returners or slot speedy guys, but these aren't speedy guys. I mean, so yeah, to go back to the idea of Harold Fannin as your big slot, that makes a lot of sense, other than they haven't added like 3 other guys behind him that are carbon copies. So
they're little slots.
Sure.
Right. Right. You have to figure he's going to be that. Like that's
I'm quite excited about Harold Fannin, to be honest with you. When you look at one of the things I do actually follow, I'm not big into the college football in general, but I do follow Bowling Green a little bit just because of the historical connections and stuff like that with the Browns. I'd always read about, Paul Brown doing training camps there and where the jerseys come from, etc., etc. And I always kept an eye on Bowling Green, and my son was sort of actively looking about possibly coming to the States in the next year or two to go to college and play soccer, and he was looking at some college teams and he was having a look around that area. But the stats that Fannin is bringing to the table now, look, I know the MAC and all that, but I think he literally had half of the team's yards, offensive yards last year.
Right.
And he's built like apparently Antonio Gates' second coming, and maybe not as mobile and as nifty.
Not quite as big, but
not as big, but he's got that type
I would comp him to, and this is the ceiling, okay. But if he can approximate and the Browns can find a way to use him similarly, Brock Bowers,
Okay.
that's the kind of role we're going to be looking for from Harold Fannin. Okay, this is a guy who finds the soft spots and gets that release and gives to the quarterback, a simple option.
Six
Yeah.
yards every time.
Yeah, we only want just 9 catches.
You know what,
a
John?
game.
No, the I think I saw a stat where like 45 or 50% of his yardage last year was yak. It was after the catch. So he's hard to bring down. And I mean, versus a safety or a will linebacker, it's going to be hard for them to tackle him, right? So, yeah, you're right. He could be sort of the linchpin that unlocks the offense for these young quarterbacks that makes it easy, right? We're looking for easy plays from these guys, not 20 yards down the field like we were trying to do with Jameis last year. So there's a good possibility that he is one of those guys that they figure out how to use him a lot. He comes to be a high volume guy. And I mean, he and Judy could be the leaders in yardage this year.
But the problem, and you just alluded to it there, Jeff, is that I get the feeling, and I know watching games last year, it was happening every game by the end of the season. Teams were just sitting up on us because we had nothing. We had nothing to go downfield. Like we couldn't get the ball down there, and we hadn't got anyone down there to catch the ball. And that's why I mentioned earlier on Romeo Doubs, someone like that. You know, someone that can get down the field.
One guy like that.
Keep the secondary honest.
I wonder, could we get that Antonio Gates back? Or is it Gates? No. What's the Callaway? Antonio Callaway.
Antonio Callaway.
There you go.
He's probably not. He's probably not
probably
doing
a free agent right now.
Yeah. I think Anthony Schwartz is still looking for a job too.
There you go.
I think he is. Yeah, I think he is. Yeah. That's right.
Well, I'm not giving up on the wide receiver room yet. I think there's probably still going to be an addition there. So we should have enough weapons to at least have a respectable offense this year, as long as the line can create some holes.
It mightn't make sense to take the ball out of Judkin's hands or out of Dylan Sampson's hands for most of the game. If we're going back to 2 years ago, I foresee a lot of ground and pound going on, and we won't need to be looking for downfield options, all the time. But it'd be nice to see someone like Jamari Trash or Cedric Tillman put their hands up at least for that outside role, like we'll at least grow one from the inside.
Yeah. Hopefully one of those guys.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about some of the other with the quarterbacks. I think, don't you want to do the same thing with the receivers, with Tillman and Thrash? I mean, David Bell's in the last year of his contract. I'd kind of be surprised if they would extend him. I mean, they've kind of acted like he, other than the injuries, like he kind of doesn't exist the last couple seasons. So
it's going to be hard for David Bell to get many opportunities.
It is. He's probably not going.
Harold Fannin is going to get those opportunities, I think.
Yeah, he is. But so I think you want to see Tillman, you want to see Thrash, because you want to see what you have in these guys.
Yeah, you need an X receiver.
Yeah, because realistically in this offense, you got the 2 running backs, you got the 2 tight ends. You don't need a whole lot beyond your 2 starting wide receivers. I mean, you're going to have some 3 wide receiver slots, but how often are you going to have 4 or 5 wide receivers out there when you have these 2 tight ends?
Right.
And these running backs? I don't think you're going to go to those kind of sets all that often in this offense.
Right.
So figure out what you have in these guys so that you can address it next year. And if Thrash and Tillman are not the guys, let's know that going into the offseason next year. Right. Precluding any injuries or anything else, man. Get them enough snaps, enough targets to find out what they are this year.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think.
100%.
So we've talked about the quarterback room. Man, I went round and round about the about the running back room on that. And the wide receiver room too, which we've already talked about. But the running back room, guys, we drafted the 2 running backs. We have Ford on the roster, and we have who's the other guy?
Pierce Strong.
Okay,
Yeah.
Pierce Strong. Pierce Strong, thank you for your service. Okay. No offense, he's not going to make the team. People, myself included, would still like to see Nick Chubb signed to this team. I might be one of the only guys saying, hey, let's just carry 4 running backs this season. Screw it. Carry 4 running backs. I'm good with it. Let's just pound the ball. We'll throw some too to see what we have in quarterbacks and wide receivers, but let's pound the ball. I would like Nick Chubb on the team for at least a season to kind of mentor these 2 young running backs. Why wouldn't you want him to be around these guys for a year? You know? And I think he could have a role on the team too. And man, if you have to trade Ford or something, fine. But I think you'd get away with a year of 4 running backs. They're not going to stay healthy all season anyways. It just doesn't happen. But it sounds kind of like Nick is talking Chicago and stuff, but we've been hearing about that for days now and nothing's happened. So just kind of wonder what you guys think of the room. I guess what you would like to see maybe and what you think might happen.
Yeah.
Right. So for getting the option between, I suppose you're really talking Jerome Ford or Nick Chubb, I suppose, is really what it boils down to.
4 guys. Unless you go with 4 guys. I'm the only person who thinks 4 guys is a good idea, but okay.
Yeah. Now don't forget we have had fullbacks on this team.
Yeah.
We have had fullbacks. What was that guy from Denver? The fullback we got from Denver. Can't think of his name. Played a season or 2. Can never remember these guys' names. Anyway,
I lose trivia tonight.
Yeah. But in that role, like if you're making a space, like we can always make space on this 53-man roster for Nick Chubb. Like that's just a fact. And like you were saying, injuries. But what I think they're seeing, what I think the front office are seeing, is different skill sets, and I think they have the perfect balance there with Judkins, Ford, and Sampson. Like you have a good mix there of skill set, and like Chubb and Judkins will be pretty similar in skill set, I'd imagine, from what I've seen. But if Judkins were to get injured, or if Chubb was to get injured, well, look, no one's going to say no to Nick Chubb, right? Well, none of the fans are going to say no, but I can see why. I can see why he hasn't been signed yet. I can see why, but my preference would be to have him on the squad.
Yeah, and I'm talking probably a lot more with my heart than my head when it comes to Nick Chubb. I really just don't want it to be over yet with Nick Chubb. I really don't want to see him playing for another team. So, so I want them to figure out a way to get him on this team.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with all that. I think the problem is, this is my head talking, how do you use him? I would like to see Nick Chubb come back in sort of a specialist role. Be our short yardage guy, be that veteran presence. I just don't think Nick Chubb is there from a career standpoint in his own mind yet. I think Nick Chubb still thinks that he can be a number 1 back in this league. And we should all celebrate him for that, right? That he can come back from this and be a number 1 back. And I don't think he's going to get that opportunity here. I think with a team like the Bears, he can get 15 carries a game and maybe get his career back on track.
Maybe.
Here, I think it would be a reduced role. So when you talk about putting 4 running backs in the team, Rod, at least a couple of them are going to have to play special teams. And the two guys we drafted really aren't going to play much special teams, I don't think.
Probably not. Yeah.
Ford will play some special teams for you. You can find a UDFA or pick up a 4th running back or a practice squad running back that can play special teams. I don't know that you can justify a roster spot for Nick Chubb as a 3rd running back who doesn't play special teams. I'd love to see it, and if I'm making a hot take, I would say, Nick Chubb will play somewhere else this year and reestablish himself as an NFL back on a 1-year deal. And I'd say there's a very good chance that you could see a reunion down the road in some sort of role. How many times did Kenny Lofton come back to Cleveland, right? We could see Nick come back, in the twilight of his career in a reduced role, but I think he's got to be ready for that, So I wish him the best, however it works out.
Absolutely. I think we're all going to be Nick Chubb fans no matter what happens here. There's obviously 1 or 2 teams maybe 3 teams we don't want him to go to. Right. No matter what.
I don't want to see him in the black and gold.
No. I think we could probably live with even the other 2 teams in the division, but not the black and gold. But you never know what's going to happen. We talked about needing a wide receiver. Maybe trades will work out and open a spot and things like that. But I guess, I was thinking through the idea of carrying 4 running backs. I'm thinking, well, in this offense, maybe they don't need the 5 to 6 wide receivers. The problem there is that they're probably going to be carrying three quarterbacks, which takes another roster spot. Right. And now you're taking 2 extra roster spots. So we
probably won't have any safeties by the start of the season anyway.
That's true. We're not going to carry safeties. We're just going to carry eight corners.
Oh man. We're putting a lot of hope on Ronnie Hickman, aren't we?
That's for sure. So have you guys looked over the UDFAs at all? Is there anybody here that's worth talking about? Usually there's a couple guys that kind of stand out. There's one guy, Dom Jones, the cornerback, who got a little bit of a bonus and some guaranteed money, but it's not the big guarantee that we've seen at some points. He's out of Colorado State. I couldn't even find any info on him.
I was keeping an eye out on Isaiah Bond, but I know he's gone to Miami now. I thought that would have been a road they may have gone. I don't know exactly the off-field stuff, how that is playing out, but it was enough to not get him drafted.
Yeah. The guard from Cincinnati, Rod. Big kid. I think he's got a chance of ending up on the practice squad.
D'Artagnan Tinsley.
Yeah.
6'4", 320.
Best name in the draft.
He sounds like a great name. And just reading about him, he kind of reminds me of James Hudson, how they say how strong he is and, how much of a punch he's got and everything.
Yeah. Interior guy. I think he's got a shot. For me, the dark horse wouldn't surprise me at all if he won a roster spot on the initial 53 is the long snapper. I'm not sure that Russ Sunahara is a long-term answer. He's a local guy that we're all pulling for, but this kid that they brought in as a long snapper may be the one that surprises everyone.
Yeah,
Brent Matistik.
Yeah. Out of TCU. Yeah.
Yeah.
They signed they got let's see, quite a few offensive linemen, corners. I thought some people were talking about the tight end, Jeff. Eli Wilson out of Appalachian State, 6'3", 240. I don't know much about him, but I saw some people saying that could be a good signing. Obviously there's room for another tight end or two.
See him
Well,
he's listed as a fullback on the depth chart.
Yeah.
So
There
we're
again,
going that direction. H-back.
Right. It's what are you going to do with Harold Fannin, and let's stack another similar guy behind him, right? So if something happens, we need that guy to be the H-back,
On the
we've got
practice
another
squad.
option. Yeah, he's probably going to end up on the practice squad. Yeah, I'm not really counting on any guys this year doing like we've seen the last couple, where they just kind of light it up and win a roster spot in camp. I'd be surprised this year.
Well, we've had a good run. Like we've had Ronnie Hickman, Macmo Diabate.
Yeah.
Who else did we have? We had someone else, a corner or a safety in the last few years.
Well, there were two guys with the Diabate. Somebody else made the team that same year, didn't they, Jeff? I'm trying to think of who that was.
Yeah,
I
can't remember right now.
It was one of, I can't remember. Maybe one of the safeties, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Right.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Maybe a defensive guy. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody on defense. Yeah. You're right, John. We've done pretty well with that, and so it wouldn't surprise me if one guy ended up on the team this year.
Green.
I'm betting on the long snapper. I guess I'll leave it at that.
It was Green. It was Green. I think the cornerback, the one we were thinking of.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. He's the one. He's the one we paid loads of guaranteed money straight after the draft.
That's right. Yeah, that's been a few years. Yeah.
Yeah,
he worked out pretty well, and I think he got a nice contract someplace else eventually to play a little bit more. So good for him.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, some of these guys, if you haven't heard of them, haven't been watching them going into the draft, you're not going to know a lot until you see him out there in preseason games, and then maybe a guy, stands out in the preseason games, and that's where you kind of get a feel that maybe somebody's going to make an impact.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the off-season practice game darlings that get cut. The ones we fall in love with.
Yeah. If you guys want a hot take, I am going to take George Larvidane, the wide receiver, to lead the team in receptions in the preseason this year. Okay, and get cut. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him, but
that
it
happens.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
Somebody that gets signed as a UDFA comes in, leads the team in receptions, and then doesn't make the team. And everybody's just gushing over him. And
who was the guy? Great. Who was the guy? Was it Damien Sheehy or Damien? Whatever. He did the big return touchdown here a few years ago. He stepped outside the building and stuff like that, and everyone was in love with him. They're great stories. Great stories for the off season.
It just didn't make the team. So,
right.
Yeah. So, is there any other news going on, guys? I don't think so.
Just the front office guy that is going to the Titans, Dan Sagini.
Yeah.
We're going to get a pick for that?
No.
No.
We get picks for some of those sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's always nice.
No, not this one. I saw some rumors there. Just when we're talking about rumors and brands from interest on this side of the sea. I saw a rumor online earlier on that the London game is going to be the 49ers on the 5th of October. That would be good for me.
It's a big game. Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
And also, if anyone who's a season ticket holder wants to get in touch with me to give me their ticket for London, or not to give it, I'll buy it. Their tickets for London, because they get first dibs. The season tickets get first dibs. Get in touch. I'm actively seeking at the moment because I know tickets are going to be really difficult to get, especially if it's the 49ers. The 49ers have a following over here, have a big following over here. There's a couple of teams have big followings over here. The Packers, the Patriots, the Steelers. There's teams there. The Cowboys, the Raiders. 49ers are one of those. And
based on the 49ers game that we went to, John, they had a pretty good following in Cleveland too. I mean, like half the stadium was wearing 49ers.
Was there to watch the Browns come back? To watch the
Right.
Browns? Did we come back in that game?
Come back and win, 2 years ago,
to win that game.
Yeah.
That was a great game.
Yeah.
And
Well, maybe we could all get together in London and have Peter Jones join us, and we could take in the Browns game in London. That would be great.
Absolutely. No, I'm definitely going. Once I get tickets, I'm definitely going. Like London's only an hour from here on an airplane. Like, it's not far. Like, But other big news this week is we're getting Bill Belichick in Ireland next year for the Aer Lingus Classic for the college game. UNC are coming over. I can't remember who they're playing now, but I just seen the headlines the other day that it was UNC. So we'll have Bill on the sideline here next fall.
Nice. You'll have his 24-year-old girlfriend call and play.
Is she going to coach the other team? Yeah.
No, she'll be there holding the clipboard.
Right.
It's telling them which place to call.
Yeah,
exactly.
Lads, we're only jealous, lads. We're only jealous.
Oh man, I tell you, good for him.
Yeah. Wow. So, I was going to say, that so October 5th. That's going to be what about game 5,
6,
5,
6,
game 5 or 6,
5 or 6. So who you guys think is going to start that game?
Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. That's who I was thinking.
I like it. Just it would make no sense other than Shador beats him out, and like
it could be Shador.
And that's that. But it in my head it is Dylan Gabriel's like so clearly ahead of Sanders in the pecking order, and at the minute Joe Flacco is the starter quarterback. Right. Joe Flacco will start, it's just whether it makes sense to start him or not. Is going to be
Sanders and Gabriel may be alternating games starting by then.
Oh, Rod, don't inflict that on. Oh my God! Imagine the podcast and the radio shows.
Oh my goodness!
Coming, no, we're not. I won't be able to cope with that.
We'll have a quarterback rotation going between.
No, we're going to be wishing for Josh Gordon back in the building if this is the way things are going to go.
Yeah.
I think Dylan Gabriel is the only quarterback who's guaranteed a spot on this team, and he might even end up being on the practice squad a couple times. But
you're not wrong, Jeff. Like it's not how it is sport. It's not crazy to think that a fifth round drafted quarterback gets dropped.
Not crazy. No, I think any of those other three guys could be your starter at that point. I think Shador could wow us in camp, and maybe they really believe in him at that point, and they're trying to get him ready to trade him to somebody. Maybe they think he's long term. I think the guy that I have the least amount of expectation for this year is Kenny Pickett. I mean, I know what we have with Joe Flacco, and I know why he's on the roster. Kenny Pickett to me feels like the piece that doesn't fit right now.
So he's probably going to be the guy who plays the best.
Could be. Yeah, that would be our history. Yeah.
Would not surprise me in the slightest if he just comes out and wins that job.
Right.
Just because that's just how things go.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy that nobody's talking about and forgetting about and saying, let's just trade him, let's get rid of him, let's move on. Because we want Flacco in the building and we got the two rookies, and let's just go with these three guys. And nothing's going to happen until closer to the start of the season. So they're all going to get a shot.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we're having these conversations because, like, I think it's a good way to temper expectations for the seasons and to be realistic about what is in store for us. Because unfortunately, we probably haven't done enough in the draft and in free agency to overtake two of the teams in our division. Like the Steelers, no matter how much we wish they're going to shit the bed every year. It doesn't
Never
happen.
do.
It just doesn't happen.
No.
And so there's no point in us sitting here hoping for it to happen again. The Steelers are going to win their 7 or 8 mandatory games, and if they stack 2 on top of that, they're going to the playoffs. And the Ravens are a very good team. They have Malachi Starks and Mike Green drop into their laps every year. Every year it's the same scenario. They got better out of the draft.
They don't even have to be smart.
Yeah. Just,
I was pretty excited about Mike Green and Justin Tucker being roommates, and then they drafted a kicker. So maybe Justin Tucker's done, but yeah,
he might be.
You talk about needing the roles on a team, I think the Ravens are. You're right. They're the prohibitive favorites, and the Steelers are going to get their wins. And the best chance we have to leapfrog a team is the Bengals, because the Bengals had a really shitty draft.
Yeah,
and they have a really shitty defense. They're just capable of putting up so many points. They might be able to outscore their mistakes, and we're going to still struggle to score points. So it's going to be a race to the bottom between us and the Bengals. Unfortunately,
it looks like it.
Our defense matches up with them. So
then the only other thing, the other part of the puzzle we just have to hope for is a serious regression from Trevor Lawrence. And the whole coaching staff in the Jags to be tragic.
I think that's the best part of that trade, John.
An implosion.
Is rooting against Trevor Lawrence.
We get 2 teams. We get 2 teams. We get 2 teams every week now to shout for. It's whoever's playing the Jags and the Browns. So
you're right.
Exactly. There is that thing. It's actually funny within the bunch of Clevelanders that I hang out with online, a noticeable dislike for Trevor Lawrence, and a noticeable dislike for Clemson in general, kind of terms amongst the Buckeyes. All right, it's palpable.
It goes back to the Buckeye thing. Yeah.
No, I actually find it interesting, the whole book. I think so. I'm kind of removed from all that because, like I said, I don't really follow college football. I watch when it's on, and I follow players and etc. And I would have a soft spot maybe for Bowling Green just to keep an eye on the MAC conference. But it's a different thing. Like I always find that that Browns fans that are Buckeyes fans are they're nearly always broken. Because like on a Saturday you're going out and you're winning 75-14, and then on Sunday you're going out and getting disappointed,
Exactly.
And it's a very sort of diverse kind of bunch of results that you're dealing with at the weekend.
Yeah,
it helps you to stay humble.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's for sure. All right, guys. Well, let's get some closing thoughts. So John, again, everybody, if they're not following you already on X, they can follow you at John Cahill _IRL for Ireland. What would you like to close with?
I'm overall at the moment. I'm as a Browns fan. I'm in a hopeful place. This is the first year. I was always a draft guy. Always loved the draft. I was one of the reasons I said the draft was our Super Bowl. It was for years my favorite thing. And then we started winning and trading away first round picks. And I kind of felt I lost a little bit of my Browns fandom through the draft. And this is the first year in a long time that I felt we've kind of got a bit that back. Had a bit of a sort of a good rooting interest in the draft this year. I think we have a lot of young players that I'm excited to see this year. I think this year, like the year ahead, and my hopes, I suppose, for the year ahead are not results based. It's going to be more about the development of players and to see where we go, especially the quarterback room, and to see if they have the sense to play the players that we drafted and not the player that's going to be gone next year and will never play for the Browns again. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of things that I'm looking forward to this year. And I said it's a bit exciting. It's a bit of trepidation, and I think for most of us, well, as someone that's never really seen stability in the Browns as an organization, it's interesting to see that we have the same front office, the same coaching core, essentially, for so long now. When I say so long, this last few years, and to see continuation in the building, and to see how it kind of brings a level of calmness as a fan around the organization, that you can kind of sit back a bit more and appreciate what's going on. And like, we were able to have a conversation about being surprised by picks in certain rounds from certain positions, because we haven't seen that, because it's been so predictable, and it's been in a good way, like, so yeah, no, all positive, really looking forward to seeing the new guys in the building, waiting with bated breath every day for the new videos and new social media content from the new players, and to see how everything's going. So all good. And I said, from our, again, the new season point of view, I can't wait for the London game. Can't wait. And fingers crossed for tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All you season ticket holders, hit John up if you can make it over. So Jeff, closing thoughts tonight.
Yeah, really good to see you, John. Thanks for joining us tonight. We know what Joe Flacco is. We know what Kenny Pickett is. We know what Dylan Gabriel is. The big question mark right now is, what's Shedeur Sanders going to be? Is he going to come in here and be that high first-round pick, or is he going to come in here and be that fifth-round swing and a miss? Right now, I'm betting on him being that first-rounder. And I'm going to make the prediction that he's going to start week 1. He's going to prove all of his doubters wrong, because I want this team to succeed. Ergo, I want Shedeur Sanders to succeed. So let's hope that he continues to do all the right things and comes in and establishes himself as an NFL level quarterback, like everybody thought he was going to be only a couple months ago. And that only makes us a better organization, regardless of whether he's here in 6 weeks after the start of the season or 6 years. Let's hope that he gets it done.
Jeff with the bomb to close the show. We appreciate that, Jeff. Again, this has been the Browns Blitz. We are part of the Fanatical Elves Network. You can follow us, and please subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. And we appreciate y'all for listening. And we will catch you next time.